why the DAA program is something that we all should be bothered about today.
Well, thank you, Vatsal, and thanks to everybody who is giving up a bit of their day to learn about the DAA Ad Choices program. We are delighted that we have this opportunity. We can't thank Vatsal and Shelley enough, as well as Khushbu to pull this together for us, and so we're excited about it. Chet, I don't know if this is the right time to power up the PowerPoint, but you'll tell me when it is, and we'll go from there. But to give you all a little bit of context, so DAA, the Ad Choices program generally, has been around since 2010 in market. So if you don't know what Ad Choices is, it's the little blue triangular icon that shows up on literally trillions of ads every year. That is and was a privacy innovation that came out of a storm here in the United States in the late 2000s, so 2008, 9. There was a great deal of concern about the practice of behavioral advertising here in the U.S. as there was in other parts of the world, and industry here in the U.S. gathered together. So the Association of National Advertisers, the 4As, which are the agency groups, the DMA at the time, the Direct Marketing Association in the U.S., and IAB got together, and then eventually 2 other trade associations joined as well, and formed the DAA as a response to that privacy crisis. Our main privacy regulator at the time, the Federal Trade Commission, had issued a dire warning to industry, basically saying, listen, you either clean up your act or we will put you out of business. That was literally the threat that was put out. In that light, as the 4 trade associations came together to birth DAA, we brought forward this idea that privacy can be done in real time, that with every ad, with every website, with every, at that time no one was thinking about apps, but with every app, that a consumer could have access to information about the practice of behavioral advertising very quickly, very tactically, very in real time, with just a click. And that's really where Ad Choices was born. Now, fast forward many years, and while we still, all of our principles deal with the practice of data collection across sites over time, across apps over time, the reality is too that something perhaps that we did not expect at the time that we launched has happened as well. With the ubiquity of the icon being in the market, consumers have come to see it as something of a trust seal. Now, we do not market it that way. We're very careful about that because it does mean a very specific thing. But the reality is that, you know, when you run 1 trillion of these, I think we were running at a rate of 1 trillion a month globally recently. When you run that many of them and consumers start to see it, start to recognize, start to understand what's going on with it, and that all of that is backed up by education and accountability programs, then consumers start to feel like they have some investment in this symbol. And that's been true. Every time we do a survey, we do a poll, we ask consumers, they come back and they say, yep, I feel some additional trust when I see this associated with a website, associated with an ad, associated with a brand, whatever. And so we can talk a little bit more about that. So the arc of the program, you know, from beginning to where we are today, and we're certainly not on the downward side of the arc, we're still moving up, I think, is that brands, marketers, agencies, publishers, ad tech companies all have embraced this program as a way for them to be proactive about privacy. I think Vatsil made the excellent point earlier that marketers very much are not necessarily waking up, but acknowledging the issue that that privacy is and will continue to be a foundational issue that marketers have to deal with as they continue to brand build, find new audiences, continue to engage and perhaps engage more deeply with their existing customers going forward in the 2020s. And so as we look at the program, we see a great deal of opportunity for marketers in other parts of the world to adopt these very sound principles that have to do with both transparency, having a proactive conversation with the consumer, as well as giving that consumer some control. And we're delighted that a program that started in the US has now been exported to, I think we're in 38 countries and 26 languages. We're in Europe, we're in Canada, we're in Latin America. Hopefully, if things go right, we can establish a program there in India and other parts of Asia. And so the reward on it for the marketer is that he or she can very much lean into that desire from the consumer to be able to know what's going on with my data. How are you using my data? How are you using it responsibly? Do I have any choices about this? And those are fundamental questions that all of us as consumers ask, and the Ad Choices program is a way to answer those questions in real time. So I'm going to stop there. I've said a lot, and I'll let Vatsil and Chet direct me whether it's PowerPoint time or if you all want to ask questions, whatever is most effective and efficient.
If Chet wants to present, he can, or if you want to present the PowerPoint, he can. I'd forgotten to toggle on the controls for Chet to present. So Chet, it's now on, just in case you and Lou want to present.
Lovely. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. I think to Lou, I'll let you catch your breath, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit right here, Lou, where you were just about ready to, you'd mentioned the trade associations that came together. They're indicated here. And as we enter our 10th year of principles enforcement in the United States right now, these are some of the metrics that we've had for success on our program. Lou, do you want to pick that up from here?
I do, Chet. Thanks. And so, so we are delighted that our friends from Dell were able to join us here this morning as a representation of the thousands of brands that participate in the program. We're equally thrilled that our friends at TrustArc were able to join us as well, because they help brands and marketers be able to deploy the program in a turnkey fashion. I think one of the challenges we faced early on when we launched the program from all sorts of companies, right? I mean, we are reaching out to companies who sell cars for a living, who sell computers for a living, who sell services for a living. This is not necessarily a program that they have developers just hanging around ready to deploy. They needed a solution for that, and we were delighted that TrustArc, along with another company, were willing to step up and be that solution. They went through a fairly rigorous process to be reviewed and approved by our nonprofit board to make sure that there was a solution in market for companies who wanted to do this, who wanted to be proactive with their consumers. And TrustArc does provide that solution for many, many companies. And so we're delighted by that. The 100 million, those are the uniques that come to our websites to learn about what is it that is going on with my data? How are you using it responsibly? What choices do I have? The 134 companies that are on our Web Choices tool Those are companies who have given us their proprietary scripts to be able to exercise an opt-out from a consumer on their behalf. We have a similar program in the in-app world on a platform called App Choices, which same thing. We have 40 plus companies who have given us endpoints to be able to process opt-outs on a centralized basis. I think going back to the point I made earlier, one of the most salient things that has come out of this, one of the most tangible things out of our program is the ubiquity of the program. We're serving the Ad Choices icon at a rate of 1 trillion times a month globally, and that is certainly web-wide scale. Just as a point of reference, when we were initially talking about this about 10 years ago, many companies that we were talking to were saying to us, this is before we launched, hey, I can make the Ad Choices program live inside the four corners of my website, but we cannot take it off my website. I don't know how to take it off my website. And we've solved for that many, many, many times over, as you can see. And so whether you're on a publisher site, you're on a brand site, you're wherever you are, you're in an app, you're wherever, social media, the icon program runs there and has found a way to run there. Importantly, and this is what gives the program such integrity, we've had 125 publicly announced enforcement actions. We have an independent accountability program that helps make sure that companies comply with the rule set that's tied to the Ad Choices program. Now, we do it in a way that is, as you can imagine, we're a self-regulatory body. We do it in a way that's compliance focused. It is not about beating people over the head. It is how do you bring a company into compliance if you've seen patterns of behavior that suggest that it's out of compliance. How do you do that? And we've been able to do it 125 plus times. I will point out we do reserve the right to bring companies to the federal government, or in some cases our state governments, if companies do not comply with these rules. But thankfully, we've been successful. That 125 represents 98+% success in bringing companies into compliance. And again, the 6 founding associations without whom we would not have been able to do this. Chet, next. As I said earlier, the program has now taken root in many different geographies, and we're delighted by that. It's starting in the US, going to Europe, going to Canada, going to Argentina. Next. And in terms of participation, we're just going to go through this kind of quickly, but just to give you a sense for who's in the program, what and some of the names and companies that are associated, everyone from ad tech to next, to primary brands that consumers deal with on a day in, day out basis, and all manner of the verticals that they participate in. Next. Whether it's something as sensitive as financial and health services, or in the CPG categories or autos. Also, you'll see a lot of publishers in the program, as well as retail and e-commerce companies. All of these, including our friends at Dell, all of these companies have helped support the program over the years, but also make it a fixture that consumers can rely on day in and day out. As I said, the program has started at the end of the 2000s and 2009. That's our first set of principles. But the program has evolved. I think one of the unique value propositions of a self-regulatory program is that it can evolve faster than legislation, faster than public policy can. And so as privacy issues have been raised, instead of allowing for onerous legislation to move forward, we've been very successful at being able to implement a series of self-regulatory measures that has addressed many of the issues that were raised at those times. And so the original principles had to deal with the practice of behavioral advertising on desktop. The multi-site data principles in 2011 made clear that also included categories of sensitive data and what you can do and not do in those areas. In 2013, we came back with mobile guidance to deal with what was then the just emerging area of mobile web and mobile apps. In 2015, we came back and dealt with the issue of cross-device. So a lot of cross-device graphing that was starting to become a very significant part of the marketing ecosystem and how to do that responsibly. And in fact, that book in particular came on the heels of our privacy regulator asking, hey, look, should we be legislating in this space? And I think that we as an industry were able to answer in a very proactive way and say, you don't need to legislate, we can take care of this. And in fact, we had. And then our last set of principles have to do with the issue of political advertising. And we can talk about that, although I don't think that is something that you all are particularly interested in at this moment. Next. And this is how the program looks to someone in the a consumer. I like to say, this is what the program looks like to my mother-in-law, right? She doesn't understand about all of the things that I just explained, and she doesn't need to. She basically goes about her life on the internet or in an app or whatever, and she'll see the Ad Choices logo and be able to click on it and understand, hey, this is how data is being used, and these are the choices that are being afforded to me. She doesn't have to go scrolling through a 10,000-word privacy policy. She doesn't have to understand the indemnity and warranty and representations that are listed in terms of service. She doesn't have to understand how the choice is being afforded to her. She doesn't have to understand that there are perhaps many companies that are working together to serve that ad. All she needs to do is click, and there's a simpler explanation, a layered approach for those of you in the privacy field, and then some choice made available to her. Next. And this is, again, if you look there, particularly in the middle, this a layered notice provided by our friends at TrustArc at the time that we took the screen grab. It was before their rebranding. They used to be known as Trustee, but this provides a branded way for a company to be able to connect with its consumers who are concerned about privacy. So in this case, Pottery Barn is running the Ad Choices program through TrustArc. And if a consumer clicks on it, the consumer gets a stylized message customized to Pottery Barn in Pottery Barn's own voice, and giving consumer both the information about how data is being used as well as some choices. Next. And you can see here also it's in video. We were making the point that we also can do this in video. Thanks. Next. On websites. Next. And these are our choice tools. Next. I'm rushing through because I do want to take some moments for questions. So our web choices tool, which allows you to opt out on web-based platforms. Next. And our app choices tool, which allows you to opt out in the in-app world. Next. This is a screen that really talks to the policymakers much more so than the marketers, but it's been an important touch point for us and for many of our key stakeholders over the years. One of the things that invariably happens is that policymakers ask us, well, what's the point of this? Why do this? Why support this self-regulatory approach instead of a more onerous legislative approach. And the reason that we give back invariably is that advertising funds many of the free services that we all take for granted every single day. And so when we ask consumers, you consumers tell us, what do you think it's worth to have a free internet? What do you think it's worth to have access to free video, free sports, free news, free weather, free email, et cetera, et cetera? They tell us that it's worth $1,400 US every year to them, which is a very significant amount of money for that service, and that's part of what we help to protect in this market. Next. But when you're talking to marketers, you know, the issue is, you know, can you help me with my advertising as well? And the reality is, we do. Consumers, every single time we ask them this question, a significant majority of them want an internet that is paid for by advertising. Next. Here you can see it's 84%. When you ask them about, you know, do you like it that you get news and weather and so on served for free? 93% say that they do. Next. If you were buying a new mobile device, would you want one that has access to apps that allow you to access that kind of content for free? Nearly 80% say yes, perhaps not surprisingly. Next. But also, it bolsters their trust in the actual media itself. And so if you see an online ad, would it increase or decrease your trust? Nearly 3/4 say that it increases their trust. Next. Nearly 80% say that they're more likely to use a website if they see the ad choices icon associated with it. Next. Nearly 80% say that whatever comes next, whether it's programmatic advertising on TV, on digital billboards, whatever, in self-driving cars, whatever, that having some sort of system like the ad choices system would give them comfort in using those new and emerging platforms. Nearly 80% of them say that. Next. And so if you take all of that together and you look at it, you say, well, this is grown to become more than just, you know, can it be an answer to a self-regulatory challenge, a policy challenge? It has become also a piece of marketing help for brands as they communicate with their customers, as they look to engage more deeply with them, as they look to find new audiences, and as they look to explore and exploit new platforms. And part of the reason that that's there, is that it gives them that kind of help, is because it is backed with integrity. And this goes back to the point I was making about the 125 plus accountability cases that we've brought to date. And that resolves more than 13,000, oh no, it's 20,000, 20,000 consumer complaints over the years. And so this is a significant effort that we've put behind this program to make sure that as consumers interact with it and as brands interact with the program, that they feel confident, that they feel secure in the back end of the program. Next. And of course, we put this summary of all those compliance cases together to help educate marketers. Here, Bob Liodice, who's the CEO of the Association of National Advertisers here in the U.S., is giving it some praise, and we're delighted that he is part of our extended family. Next. And of course, you know, we started this journey as a response to our primary privacy regulators saying, hey, look, you industry have a problem here. You guys got to go fix this. And so here we are a few years, just a couple of years ago, them coming back. Obviously, it is very difficult to get a pat on the back from a federal regulator, but I think this is about as good as we can expect, that them saying that our work has improved the level of consumer protection in the marketplace. And so we're delighted that we were able to achieve this very, very lofty praise from our Federal Trade Commission. Next. And that's it. So that's my contact information. But my apologies, Vatsal, if I ran a little long. But I'm happy to take questions now or later, whatever fits best. I also want to make sure I give a little bit of time to our friends at TrustArc for them to explain how they work with companies.